So he's going to talk to us tonight about how to catch redfish. Kind of advanced topics, right? Whatever you want.
Maybe.
Anyway, welcome, Chris Davy. Hey, Rob. You better check in with the money man here.
Yeah, Rob, I need you back. Rob, they need you back. See, he knew the mistake was up. He didn't come.
Tim, is that check any good?
It's good, but it's
No. All right. Oof.
It's on the side.
Huh?
Turn the one on down there.
This is so much technology. Goodness.
All right, turn that one off. There you go.
Am I good to go? Everybody can hear me? Well, good grief. It's great to be back here. Listen, when I was asked to come here and give a presentation tonight, I thought about a lot of things, and I thought about how people actually fish here, because a lot of my brethren, guides, charter captains, etc., will come here and they'll tell you about working in their small boats, sight fishing, throwing lures, throwing paddle tails, throwing this and throwing that. And that is a great way to fish. The reality is, for most of us, and most of you, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're really not set up to do that. All right? You're not sneaking down 4 inches of water in a $90,000 Hell's Bay to chase a school of 4 or 5 redfish, pull them out of a creek, and go back home. You're not. You're like me. I fish a big skiff, big. Most of my clients are 3 to 5 family members, little kids, mom, dad, Uncle Joe, Grandpa Jim. That's my business clientele. That is my niche. Tim Jarvis, Jim Britton, all these other guys, Chris Herrera, Tommy Durham, Todd Durham. That's what they do. That's what they specialize in. Sight fishing, small boats, etc. They're good at it. What they're not good at is big families, bunch of people. Because guess what? If you take more than 2 people, you cannot artificial fish. You can't. So we do, or I do, what's called bait and weight. I can do the other and I will do the other. But for most folks, if you get out and you got your neighbor Bob and you're going to go out and fish, what you're looking for is to buy a bunch of shrimp, go to a place, drop your anchor, throw your power pole down, and hit a hole. I think that's pretty correct for most of us. And it can be done from the bank or anywhere else. So I thought I'd come in here and talk to you guys about how to do that and how to do it effectively, because there are wrong ways to do it. One of the things is there's multiple rigs you can use. And you'd be amazed if you throw different kinds of shrimp in different kinds of ways. All right? Most people think just put a shrimp on a hook and throw it out there. Wrong. Okay? Wrong. When you come into a hole, and if you're looking to find holes, there's a lot of new members here. There's a lot of people here who ask, well, how do you find a hole? Guess what? It kind of is rocket science, but it kind of ain't. It's called Google Earth. All right? Pull it up on your phone, pull it up. You can see the deeper holes. Okay? Do not go into them at high tide. What you want to do is try and find your holes at low incoming. That way, when you stick yourself, guess what? Now I know, don't get stuck. All right? And guess what? I'm going to get relief. I'm going to get floated out of here. I can get going. But that's how you find holes for what I call, and I'm coining a phrase from a good friend, Kyle Hill, in Crystal River, bait and wait. Because you're going to bait and wait, most of you. You just are. I don't look around this room and see a bunch of people standing on a polling platform going 12, throwing and chasing. It doesn't happen around here. Truth is, we fish holes. And what you got to find out in those holes is what's going on, how to get to them, how not to get stuck. Okay? And there's several rigs that you use for that. I never use in shallow water more than an 1/8 ounce, either with a knocker rig, which I can tell you about, a jig head, or anything else. Only because it hits the water quiet enough, other than freeliner shrimp. That's what I'm going to use. So, first thing is you want to find water and deep holes at certain times. If you have a boat like a Deep V and this and that, Jimmy, you used to call me all the time when you first moved here and go, I got this boat and I can't get here, I can't get there. Where do I go? Guess what? If you got that boat, watch. It's no secret. We don't have that much water, people. If you see people all the time lined up anchored on certain beaches and shell bars, okay, down near the inlet, down these places they're not there just for kicks and giggles, all right? They're there because fish have been caught. You're going to have to weight yourself appropriately. So, but if you want to get back in the back, you got to look at where the holes are. Once you get to these holes, get good bait. You can get dead bait, you can get live bait and hook it up wrong. Don't do that, okay? There's some really cool stuff on Facebook. There's a couple of guides that talk about this. One is how you hook your bait. Because the subtleties of how you catch fish and how you don't catch fish is a big deal. I hear it all the time. I fish the same spot with the same bait, with this or that, I never catch anything. Well, you really don't fish it the same way. Now, when I talk about fishing these holes and fishing tides and all this stuff, here's the deal. Every hole I fish with my clients or myself, there are a few things I know. I know what time of day, what time of tide, incoming, outcoming, and I know it. I know that if this hole starts going off, I can look at a shell bar and I have it in my mind because I've written it down before. Now it's in my mental image that until, say, certain oysters get about this far out of the water on an outgoing low tide, nothing's going to happen. Nothing. Nothing's going to happen. Only because it's my experience and I've been there that many times. As Jim Britton says, and we all know him here in this club, you're not paying me for the trip today, you're paying me for the trips I did 1,000,000 times before. And that's the truth. So if I take you to a place, I might be sitting there and I might be there 15, 20 minutes early, but I'm waiting on that tide and that current, either incoming or outgoing, to get exactly right before those fish turn on. And I know it's probably only going to be a 25, 20 minute, it's either going to hit or it's going to go. and I can get out of there. All right? It doesn't matter. We all fish with shrimp. We do. And if you can throw a cast net, I encourage you, get mullet, croaker, small pinfish, anything you can get. Because the bigger the live bait, to some extent, the better. All right? If you just want to go get dead shrimp, put it on a hook, throw it out there with a bunch of steel leader, I got news for you. You have limited yourself so bad. I fish 20-pound braid and fluorocarbon. My fluorocarbon can be anywhere from 12 to 20 pounds. Fluorocarbon is supposedly invisible, and it works. But even then, if I get in a space, I'm going to use smaller fluorocarbon. Okay? So, a little bit about that. Once I get in that hole, and I know the tides are coming in, the tides are going to be right, I'm going to fish different kinds of rigs. So I brought a couple of rods. One is called a finder rig. Okay? And, ooh, let's hook it. All right? It's basically a slip sinker right off of my braid onto a snap swivel with a fluorocarbon leader and a hook. This happens to be a #1 Kell hook. Most of the time, if I'm live bait fishing, I'm going to use a circle hook. And there's a reason why. It's called bait and weight for a reason. I'm going to put a live bait on this, mud minnow, whatever it is. I want it alive. I'm going to stick it in a rod holder, and I'm going to stand back and I'm going to stare at it. And the reason for the circle hook is because you don't have to set the hook. Big redfish, anything else hits it, this rod's going to double over like you can't believe, and all you got to do is pick it up and start reeling. That's all you got to do. Now remember, I have clients. I have clients that some of them couldn't set a hook to save their life. All right? They set a hook like this. Really? No, I need them to leave it in a rod holder. I need them to leave a rod holder and hope this thing just takes off screaming. Because otherwise, they're going to sit around all day, go like this, going. And then they're going to look at me going, well, we didn't catch anything. It's like, no kidding. Jesus. You had enough shots. But, and that aside, that is one thing. The other is, I fish a lot of jig heads, okay? If I got a live mullet, okay, a shrimp, if it's live, I'm going to pinch the tail off and put this through the back of his tail, okay? If you take a dead shrimp, hook him through and throw him, you're hoping for a bottom feeder. You will catch fish. We've all done it. But if you throw this through, and there's a YouTube video out on it with 2 other captains, put it through his tail, pop it. Pop it. Because that's how a shrimp moves when it's attacked. They crawl along when they're just moving. But if something comes to get them, they boom, boom, boom. Freshwater fishermen the same way. It's like a crawfish response. That's how they get the heck out of Dodge, is they kick their tail. So if you throw and you come across, you boop, 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 boop. That's all you need. And that shrimp is coming backwards. If they come across it, it's the same natural reaction redfish, flounder, trout, anything else are going to see, they're going to pop it. And you don't have to be poling, looking, or sight fishing. You can be in a hole and you want to cast, as I always say, 9 to 3. Okay, this is your area. I've loaded up. I've dropped my power pole down. I've dropped my anchors down. And I'm going to throw here, 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 here. And I'm going to do this back and forth, back and forth. After a while, there you go, Peter.
I got a fish.
Got him. After a while, if you don't catch anything, guess what you do? You go to the next hole. If you're new to the area, don't know what you're doing, you know what you do? You go to your phone or anything else and your electronics and hit Google Earth or your electronics. See where the next little deep spot is. Try it. All right? But you have to know you may be there at the wrong time. Like I said, I have plenty of holes that I laugh when I see people in them because I know they are not going to catch anything for 30, 40 minutes because that tide is not right. And once you learn it, you need to keep a book on what it is. Okay? Know what your tides are. The biggest thing for me is keeping up with your tides, keeping up with your bait. Now, good bait. If you don't know how to throw a cast net, you should probably learn. Okay? Even if it's small. Because you can throw shrimp all day long and everything eats shrimp. But if you can throw a cast net and get mullet, croakers, small pinfish, and you have the patience to wait, you will catch much bigger fish. I just caught a 15-inch flounder and filleted it, and it had a pinfish about that big in it. I mean, they'll eat them, but you have to catch them. They don't sell them at the bait stores. That's not going to happen. So that's what you want to do if you're out there, because I hear it all the time. It's like, well, I got my 16-foot Key West, this and that, and it's not a flats boat, it's not this, it's not that. These are the things I hope to get to you that'll work for you. All right? The other thing is in bait and weight, once you throw these baits out there, this one has a small, like 1 to 2 Kell hook. Most of the time, if I'm in a bait and weight, like I do with, I raise my sons this way. Throw a circle hook on, a small one, depending on your bait. Your hook really, in my opinion, should match your bait. If you're fishing big bait, fish a bigger hook. If you're fishing small bait, fish a small hook. Plain simple, right? And when you do it, throw them things in rod holders, stand back. In my case, in my son's case, crack a beer open, stare at them. Serious. It ain't rocket science. You know the hole's there. Once you know the tides and the places that normally fish should be there, let them roll. If it doesn't happen after a while, leave. All right? We've all been to the inlet. We've seen it. Truth is, if you can get yourself some live mullet, live croaker, or things like that, forget shrimp, and you can be there at dead low tide, throw out a spray of rods and circle hooks and mullet, you're going to have to increase your weight size just for the current. But the minute that current turns around, you got a 20, 30 minute shot at having every rod you have double over with the redfish on. That's just how it works. And if you don't, leave. Because that's how the inlet works. That's just how it works. So, bait and weight, look at it. If you're new to the area, Watch where boats are on the banks. If you don't have the skinny boats and you're worried about busting your boat up, because you will, that's how you learn where you are in this area. They call it Bubba Beach and all these other places that have shells. If you constantly see boats there, they're there for a reason, all right? They've seen people and they caught fish. Thing is, you want to adjust your weight, you want to adjust your hooks, and do not use heavy tackle. I see it all the time. I just go, good Lord, because you'll see folks with 200-pound leaders. I'm over exaggerating, but 50-pound, and they got all these freaking swivels and this and that. Good Lord. Truth is, you want as skinny and as small a tackle as you can get to be successful. That's the difference in what guides do and what other folks do that makes them successful. It's that simple. And you really want to take your time, and if you can, like I said, catch a bait, and that'll make a difference in what you're doing. All right? Otherwise, if you want to do artificial, guess what? You got to be able to cast. Okay? And not to bust nobody's chops, but some of you ain't as good at casters as you think. All right? So, like flounder will come around, and I use gulp shrimp for flounder all the time. And I have customers who want to catch flounder. They want to catch flounder, they want to catch flounder. That's great. I can't use artificial with them all the time because I evaluate them quickly. Let's throw. Well, if you can't hit that wall with a cast, I can't work with you. So now I got to start working with how I can work with you, which once again, I can find a deep hole where I know flounder are. And if I can take this rig with a bait or a shrimp, okay, just shrimp or a mud minnow, even a gulp shrimp, what I want them to do is throw it out. And I wish more people smoked, because it was easier when people smoked. It was, because they could throw it out. They could throw it out and do this right here. Hey, reel it about 3 times. See how that moves across the floor? And then sit there and go. It'd be better if more people drank too, because then I could say, yeah, just drink a little bit. And after a couple of those, you go like this. And then you move it a couple times, and you stop, and you go. And you stand there, and your mud minnow is fine, your gulp shrimp is fine, and then you pull it a little bit more. And then hopefully you feel, and they set the hook. And you can do that over and over again. And I mean, that is flounder fishing 101 for me. And as long as you can get people to do it, the problem is we have fidgeters. We have people who just can't do it. They want to throw and then immediately go, whoop, 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 whoop. It's like, stop, good Lord. Can't say that to them because they're paying you money. But underwater, that bait is going, wow, wow. It's not flounder on the bottom. You can't zing the thing to the top every time. You got to be cool with it. So just ease it across, ease it across, ease it across. That's what you do. So if you got a lot of people, you got a boat you can't get in flat water, bait and weight's wonderful. It can be excruciatingly bored. I mean, just excruciating. But if you do it correctly, you will be productive and you'll have a good time. You'll fill your cooler if you really feel like taking that stuff home. That being said, my sons are absolutely smashing the snook south of 100, down to the toilet bowl on artificials and just going back in the creeks. But that's the same thing you hear, I think, a lot from my brethren here about fishing this area. Everybody's going to come in here and tell you top water in the morning, paddle tails, down the grass flats, this, that, follow, sight fish. Well, if you don't have the boat to do that, that's, gee, thanks for the information. I can't do it. We can all do, I think, what I told you. Find a place. Even if you fish from the bank, no. Find a good place. Look at Google Earth. Find these holes. Find these places. Go out there. Drop bait in it and wait. No matter what you got to do. Use as light a tackle as possible. Fluorocarbon leaders. I don't know what else I can tell you. Any questions? Anything I can do for you? Yeah?
What's the number to Hull's fish market?
Number to Hull's Fish Market?
That's the fastest way I can get a fish.
It's called Google, and it's a fantastic way to get a fish. Hull's got everything. They got everything from inshore to tuna offshore.
This hole and I can take a picture of it.
Whoop, whoop. Yes, ma'am.
What is the average weight on your line, just average?
Average? I try to keep most of my rods and reels about the same because I do trophy largemouth as well. So I use 20-pound Power Pro braid, and I will adjust my fluorocarbon leader, which is usually about 3 or 4 feet, anywhere from 12 to 20 pounds.
20 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
That's not weight. I think he wants to know how much weight average you put on sinker weight, not line weight.
Sinker weight? You want to know the test or the weight? Test. No worries. Yeah, I use pretty heavy stuff when I'm freshwater fishing because that's, if you've ever been to Rodman Reservoir where I fish, those fish go into every kind of stump, tree there is. And
You say you're the same in the saltwater.
I do. I'll tone it down based on the clarity of water. That's why I use fluorocarbon in the first place. Freshwater fishing, a lot of times I could just go straight to 60-pound braid because the bass don't care. Trophy largemouth don't care. They're going to eat everything you got. Anybody else? Yeah.
Snook. A real quick review, you said your sons are catching a bunch of snook. Right?
They are.
Without going into a lot of detail, do you fish them completely differently than the bait and weight? Or?
Totally different in bait and weight. It's a lot like everything else folks do. Right now, the snook bite is south of the 100 bridge. And it's back in the creeks, and it's pretty skinny water. Here's the thing. Once you start heading in those creeks, your trolling motor is everything to you, okay? My trolling motor is about to get replaced because it's noisy. You cannot imagine if you turn your trolling motor on and you're standing on the deck of your boat and you hear it going, woo, you're hosed. All right, you're hosed because you will watch fish move, okay? My boys are running up in these creeks and they're throwing the usual paddle tails, even gold or copper colored gulp shrimp, and they're smoking nice, I say nice snook. I'm not going to tell you they're catching huge ones, but on a regular basis, they're catching reds and snook anywhere from, maybe up to this size. And they're catching them. The toilet bowl seems to be smoked, all right? As far as once you get down, that's a popular spot. So the actual toilet bowl itself with the depth, it's just been hit so much that there really ain't much coming out of there. As with a lot of the water around here. I mean, we're just pounding it. So please, for heaven's sakes, release everything you can. I'm a big fan of fish tacos, but if you ain't eating it tonight, don't fillet and release to the trash can 6 months later. It's terrible. Anything else? Yeah.
You recommend chum bag?
No, not at all. Chum, even in my offshore fishing, doesn't do anything but bring trash. I mean, it doesn't. If you're offshore fishing and you start chumming, most of the time what you bring is a pile of sharks. I mean, you'll bring what you want. You'll find kings and things like that. For the most part, though, you're going to make sharks. Inshore, I can't imagine you bring anything but crabs and, once again, bonnethead sharks and things like that. Hope nobody in here sells chum, because I mean, unless I took somebody on a shark fishing trip, I'd never put a bag of chum in the water, ever. Anything else? Yeah.
Tell me about your leaders and how long they are, and then also how you fasten them to the rod. I see you got a swivel on there today, but
Well, there's two ways. Asking about leaders, how I fasten them to the rod. One is if I'm using like a free line or something like that, or a knocker rig, I'm going to do a uni knot between the braid and the fluorocarbon.
so double unit.
Yeah, and then I'm going to send it. Now, if I'm going with a finder rig or something like that, I'm just going to tie the braid to the swivel, tie the fluorocarbon to the other end of the swivel, down to the hook.
And your leaders, that one is about a foot. Is that typically what you use for everything?
That is, for this type of rig, yeah, that's pretty much it. This has gotten wrapped around several times, but usually on a finder rig, it's about a foot. It's going to be from there to there.
Okay.
Okay? Otherwise, if I'm free lining shrimp and things like that, it's probably going to be twice that long.
All right.
And I will throw another tip out there. If you have it and you can't see it here, you're using braid above fluorocarbon, keep yourself a black Sharpie. All right? Wherever your braid meets that fluorocarbon, take that black Sharpie and run it up about 1.5 feet. It camos it a little more. And I tell people all the time because it's funny. Somebody said, I had a customer one time go, why you do that? I said, because Kevin Van Dam does it, and I don't ask any damn question. That's it.